our ancestors taught the Europeans government. Again, although we have not had this information. Now, what do you mean our ancestors taught these people government? Which ancestors are you talking about? Some of the people who I just identified. The Wabanaki Confederacy is still in existence, and the people in it are not the original founders of it. Okay? Now, I'm going to read a few things for you to verify some of this history that deals with the initiation of Caucasians. Now, the Bible and Quran, as we have talked about before, deal with the legacy of an ancient people who are called Israel. Israel, the word Israel, comes from the Egyptian word Osiris, or Sare, Isra. That is the etymology and the origin of the word. It's found in two places, the Meron Ptah stele, which is a stele made in the 19th and 20th dynasties of Egypt, and in the pyramid text. But I want to read you some information from the people who were governing right prior to the Constitution under the Articles of Confederation. Everybody know what the Articles of Confederation is? Anybody know? Can somebody tell me what the Articles of Confederation are? Anybody know? Articles of Confederation. Okay. It was the document of government prior to the Constitution that was changed in order to make the present Constitution. It was enacted and operated from 1781 to 1786. And there were 8 presidents in that time period prior to George Washington. And a lot of people are saying that they were black, but they weren't. They were Irish, and they were a part of a secret society called the Rosicrucians. And the Rosicrucians were the Germans who came over into America during the time period that Pennsylvania was being settled by William Penn, and they settled right up in Germantown. This is where you get the history of Germantown in Pennsylvania from. But I'm bringing that up because one of the presidents, whose name was Elias Boudinot, wrote a book called A Star in the West. And he talked about the native people who were here and how they were the lost tribes of Israel. And he talked about how they had the Bible in America prior to the European. Now this becomes very important because the so-called founding fathers who were under the Articles of Confederation have a secret connection to the society of people. Now, you know, we don't talk about secret societies and conspiracies. You hear about the Illuminati and all this stuff has become very popular. And people are just going all over the place with secret societies. But secret societies do rule your everyday affairs. Okay? But you have never known that there were black secret societies. You just hear about Rockefeller and Rothschild. But you haven't learned about your secret societies that have had drastic impact on planetary changes. But this is what we're going to read about. Okay. And it has everything to do with the information about this lost tribes of Israel history and who the people were who taught the Rosicrucian Irish people who made the Declaration of Independence, founded the Articles of Confederation, and then later had their government taken over by another group of white people from England, George Washington being the head of that. All right? Okay. This is his quote. Again, the book is A Star in the West by Elias Boudinot. And his quote is, he's talking about the Lenape, or the Nanticoke Moors. It is said amongst their principal or beloved men that they have it handed down from their ancestors that the book which the white people have was once theirs. Now, the book that they're talking about is the Bible. Now, again, I'm telling you, the Bible is the history of the most ancient lineage on earth, which is this Moorish or Israelite history. A black history, or Israel, meaning the people of Osiris. Okay? It goes all the way back to ancient Nubia. All right? That while they had it, they prospered exceedingly. I'm talking about the history of the Bible. And the reason why I'm bringing this up also is because there was a European, Charles Thompson, who was the Secretary of Congress from 1774 to 1786. And he translated for the first time the original Septuagint, which is the Old Testament, right here in Philadelphia. And that translation that he has is completely different from your King James Version. There are specific verses that are missing. And he also knew that this lineage of people that he was translating the text about and that he had been initiated into, right in Delaware, were giving him information about a particular group of people who were here, who are being talked about by Mr. Elias Boudinot, the third president under the Articles of Confederation. So I'm trying to give you some context. That while they had it, they prospered exceedingly, but that the white people bought it from them and learned many things from it, while the natives lost their credit. Now, when did that happen? Most people do not know that the first time that the Old Testament was written down was in Egypt, 285 BC, under a pharaoh called Ptolemy Philadelphus. Now, it's interesting that you get this place named Philadelphia. 285 BC was the first time that the Bible was written down. Prior to that, there was no Bible except oral traditions. I know you don't believe that, because you taught that Moses received the 5 books. That's a lie. You can verify it right in the Bible, because he didn't write about his own death, which is recorded in Deuteronomy. Hebrew was not even a language when the biblical scholars say that Moses lived. And when we find out who Moses really was, then we understand where and why there's so much confusion. Because it's all related to this Moorish Israelite history going all the way back to Kemet. Am I confusing anyone? Okay? So the first time the Bible was written down is 285 BC under Ptolemy Philadelphus. And this was for the purpose of learning about a particular people in Egypt who had had their cartouches and history wiped out. And they are called the Amarna dynasty, 18th dynasty. And you find them mentioned in the Quran under Amran, the family of Amran, 3rd surah. Okay? And their lineage, as is recorded in the Bible and Quran, is Noah, or Nu. After the so-called climatic destructions on earth, then it leads to Abraham and the seed of Abraham. Okay? Now, these people are real people. Right in Cairo Museum, if you are smart enough to get the information, which we have it in the book Reparations Equals War, they have Abraham's body. It is the best mummified and preserved body on earth. It has been mummified for 3,500 years. We'll go into detail further. Okay. So the white people bought it off them and learned many things from it, while the Indians lost their credit. Offended the Great Spirit and suffered exceedingly from the neighboring nations, that the Great Spirit took pity on them and directed them to this country. So now what is being narrated is the movement of what I just showed you or talked about, the people of North Africa, the people of Kemet or Egypt, Tamaray, moving into West Africa, and then moving further into North, South, and Central America. And if you look at the time period of the largest expeditions, they were taking place during the 2 time periods. This period of Israel with the Phoenicians, and then the period we know of as Carthage. Same people though, different names. All right. That on their way they came to a great river which they could not pass, when God dried up the waters and they passed over dry shod. They also say that their forefathers were possessed of an extraordinary divine spirit by which they foretold future events and controlled the common course of nature, and this they transmitted to their offspring on condition of their obeying the sacred laws. That they did by these means bring down showers of plenty on the beloved people, but that this power for a long time past had been ceased. Now this is from A Star in the West.